Now we're going to talk about API resources, which is, in my opinion, really important part of building scalable and secure APIs. All right, so what is API resource? API resource is a special class which gives you ability and control on what you are returning from your API. Okay, a simple example. So we are returning everything from posts, as you can see. So when we make the request, we see ID, title, body, author ID, created it, and updated it. Maybe we have some sensitive information in the post table, which we don't want to be returned. So if you're talking about posts, maybe there's not that much information, sensitive information, but let's talk about users. So users might have the access token, secure access token. Users might have the email verification date, right? And we don't want that information to be displayed in the API. So we're going to control what is returned from the API. That's why API resources are actually crucial. To create new API resource, we're going to bring up the terminal and we're going to execute PHP artisan make resource. And we're going to give the API resource proper name like post resource. That's a logical name because we are creating this resource for posts. So I'm going to hit the enter. App HTTP resources post resource was created. I'm going to hit it. It was opened. Now let's define what we are going to return from here. So this toArray method defines the format, what we want to return. Now, before I do anything here, let's go into post controller and I'm going to change what I'm returning from here. Instead of post all, I'm going to do post resource. I'm using post resource, just created post resource with collection method. And inside, I'm going to provide the posts all. So I'm taking all posts, giving into the post resource collection, and the rest will be handled by the post resource. Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to define what I'm returning here. So I want to return ID. And inside this post resource, this keyword corresponds to actual post model. So I'm using this ID, which will be post ID. I'm going to return title, which is going to be post title. I'm going to return body, which is going to be post body. I'm going to return created it, and I am going to return updated it. Okay, yet I'm not returning the author ID information, and also I am formatting my created it and updated dates into the following format: year, month, day, space, hour, minute, and second. If we have a look in the Postman, this is the default format how the dates are returned. Now I send the request and look at this what I get. So first we have everything wrapped inside data. If I collapse the data, we don't have anything else inside the data, but inside each data now we have ID, title, body, created it, and updated it are formatted as I requested. We don't have author information, right? Let's say I want to return author information as well. So there are two ways what I can do. First is that I can provide author here as an associative array, and then I can access author information from the post model itself. For this, I need to open post.php and I need to define proper relationship from post to user model. So this is going to be public function. Post belongs to user. So from here, I'm going to return this belongs to and provide the user class. And I'm going to also provide the column name based on which the post belongs to user. This is author ID. Post's author ID actually is this is saved in the user model ID column, right? So I can also define belongs to relationship, which needs to be imported from here. All right. So now I define this relationship and I can do this in the opposite way as well and go inside the user and define the relationship. Public function posts. Now return this has many. I'm using has many, providing post column class and also the column name, author ID. So user has many posts through the post modal author ID column. And again, I need to return the define the return type has many. Okay, awesome. Now we define these relationships and we know that the post has now user. Actually, let me call this author. Awesome. Now let's go into post resource and I can do the following. ID corresponds to this is a post. Now post has a relation to author. All right. Because we defined this method here, Laravel is smart enough to define the property author, which will be the user who created the post, right? And I can take that ID. In the same way, I can return the name, this author name, and I can do the email as well, but I'm going to skip the email part. Let me save this and make the request. Now look at this. So now we have author information alongside with every other post information. We have the ID and name as well. This is pretty cool. But what if we need same type of format for products, for notes, for some other resources? Now, it's a good thing to create a separate resource for the user, and which is exactly what I'm going to do. PHP artisan make resource user resource. User resource was created. Let's open this. I'm going to return an array from here, and I'm going to paste this portion like this. So we're going to return ID name, but instead of this author ID, this already corresponds to the user. So we just need this ID and this name. And we can return this email as well from here. Now let's go into post resource. And now author corresponds to new user resource. And we're going to provide this author inside this new user resource. I'm going to save this. I'm going to hit on send. And now I see author has ID, name, and email. And this is pretty cool. All right. Awesome. Let's go into post controller. And I want to change a few things here. We're going to return the instances of this post resource not only inside the index method, but we want to return this inside other methods as well. So we want to, let me scroll down below. When the post is created right here, we are returning this entire post. Let's go ahead and let's send the post request. Click on send. We get the post modal. And as you can see, this is the post modal, database modal. Not a resource because the dates are not formatted nicely and we have author ID as well. Now I'm going to change this into new post resource and provide the post as an argument in the constructor. I'm going to save this, make the request again, and now we received just created post as a resource. We have author information as well, which might not be ideal. So sometimes we want the author information, sometimes we don't want the author information, because when I'm creating a new post, I am the author typically. So I am the author. Right now we haven't done the authentication part, but we will do. And when new post is created, I am the author. I know who is the author. Why do I need to get the author back? Also, in some cases, when I'm getting the post, if I am getting my post, why do I need the author? Okay, that's a question probably, and we will answer that question. But let's first change all places and return resources, because that's the important part when building APIs. When getting a single post, we need to return it. When updating the post and then returning it, we need new post resource as well. Scroll down below, and when deleting the post, obviously we don't return anything. Now we are using post resource everywhere, and let's test getting a single post with ID 2. Here it is, we get the post. If we try to get the first post, I think this doesn't exist, so we get 404, which is great, ideal. Okay, now we are getting author every time, as I mentioned. Let's actually get all the posts what we have. So we have a couple of posts and we get the author every time. This is how I'm going to control whether the author should be returned or not. I'm going to go inside the post resource, and instead of getting this author, I'm going to change this into when loaded and provide author string here. Author is a relation into user from post. So when this relation is loaded, then pass it into the user resource. Otherwise, it will not pass it. So in this case, the relation is not loaded, so the author information is not going to be presented in the API resource, in the response. So if I go into post controller, scroll at the top, and let's say that I am getting all posts again, not filtering by current user, I'm going to call with, and I'm going to provide author as an argument. So I'm getting the post with author, which means now relation author will be loaded. So I save that. I'm going to hit on send, and oh, that's the thing. Instead of all right now, we should call get, because the all method doesn't exist on the builder. So that changes what is returned. Okay, we call get. Send the request. Now we have all the data and we have author information as well. Okay. And one last thing about the resources. Resources allow us to return paginated response as well. So I'm going to call paginate here instead of getting all the records. Now let's see how this changes the result. So we have only data at the moment. Click on send. Now we have data and links and meta as well. And that information returns everything about the pagination. Like what is the current page, from which record to which record we're displaying, how many items we're displaying per page, and so on. If I change now this through pagination into 2, and I'm returning only 2 records, now this is how it looks like. Let me collapse the links section. Now last page is 2. We are displaying from 1 to 2. Per page is 2, and totally there are 2 records. So based on that information, on any client, whether this is a web or a mobile application, you can construct the pagination links and show how many links are available totally, based on the current page, based on total, and based on the per page as well. So that is actually really good. And one additional thing, if I go and get a single post, that single post is returned. Yeah, it is returned actually correctly. Yeah, this is returned exactly how I expected, but that's because we are explicitly converting this resource into JSON, right? So if I remove this response JSON and return this in the following way, now look at this, what happens. Now the returned post is wrapped inside the data. So that is sometimes convenient depending on your use cases, your client as well. And that wrapping everything inside the data is also done a couple of other frameworks. So that might be the case what you are looking for. Even right now, when we create new post, we are returning this with a custom response JSON. That's why when we create new post, we don't see this data right now. Post, yeah, actually, let's send the request. We create new post, we don't see this wrapped inside the data, but if I remove that part, save it, and send the request, so we see this wrapped inside the data. And by the way, look at this. the status code is also automatically set by Laravel. Laravel knows that we just created a new record and it set the status code by itself, right? That's pretty cool. But this is wrapped inside the data, and the same thing will happen in the update as well. If we try to send a put request for a specific post, we still get this wrapped inside the data. So this is the default behavior, and that might be okay for you. If you want to disable this, however, you need to go into the post resource class, and we have public static property called wrap, and we can set this into null, and that data wrapping will be disabled for that resources. Now, when we update the data or when we get a single post, we don't see this wrapping inside the data. However, when we get a list of posts, we're going to still see everything inside the data, because except data, we have additional columns, additional properties here, and we want this to be returned like that. However, we disable this wrapping for only one resource, and that is post resource. If you want to globally disable that, you're going to open app service provider, and you're going to use a JSON resource class, and then call without wrapping on the JSON resource. Let me comment out this. Send the request. Actually, we want to get a single post. Now we see it is wrapped. Now uncomment this. Send the request. Now it is not wrapped anymore. Depending on your use case, maybe you want to be wrapped everything inside the data. And if this is the case, you should always return resources directly without response JSON, custom response JSON, and you should not disable this wrap property on the post resource like this, or globally from app service provider. However, if you want to remove this data, you know what